guys, this is Liz from ESG, where I'm a program manager. I'm here today to share my 7 top tips to ensure your success in remote training. So let's dig in. First tip for your success is standardizing your communication tools within your own organization. Make sure that your teammates that aren't joining the remote session are easily accessible for any questions your client may have that you are not able to answer. So picking one communication tool that your whole company will use is the best way to go about that. So maybe it's Skype or Slack or Zoom. Just getting everyone on the same page is going to make your remote trainings go more smoothly. My second tip is to make sure that you send the reference materials for your remote session to your client at least one day before the call. This will hopefully give your client time to review everything that you'll be discussing, come up with some questions that they may not have had time to do if you just shared it in real time with them, and it helps eliminate some technology issues. So we've all been on calls where the screen sharing doesn't work as you planned or something, glitches. So having those materials available on your email or your phone, maybe printed out, is a great way to avoid some of those issues. Third tip for you is to create a meeting agenda that you share with your client at least a day before your call. This gives your client time to review the agenda and write down any questions they may have. When you hop on your conference with your client, make sure you go over the agenda before you dig into your remote session that you have planned. So walk through all of your action items for the call, what you want to discuss, and then create a shared upon goal that you and your client are working towards on the session. So everyone should know what the objective is, and there should be time at the beginning to go through those items and add any that you may have missed or that the client wants to talk about. My fourth tip for you is to be sensitive to other people's technology woes, especially if you're working with a client that doesn't typically engage in remote sessions. Picking the right tool for your video conference is essential. Some people have security policies in place that don't allow them to download anything to their laptops. And you also want to make sure that you always have a call-in number available. So if they can't join the video conference, they can at least join from their phone. And this is really where sending those reference materials ahead of time can come into practice and really improve your remote session. My next tip is to make sure you utilize your tool that you're using to conduct that remote session to its full potential. For instance, Zoom has annotating capabilities, so your client can draw on the screen while you present in real time, and you can also draw on the screen. So a lot of different tools have different features like this. Just make sure you do some research, and when you start the call, if there's a feature like that you want your client to use, just make sure you point it out. My next tip for you is to make sure you keep your client engaged by asking more questions than you might normally do. In-person meetings are great because you can read each other's body language. There's a good back and forth dynamic, and a lot of that seems to disappear when you hop on a video conference, and even more if you both are calling in. So what you want to do is be sure to stop frequently. Maybe after you cover a topic, you pause and ask your client if they understand it or how they would use it within their company, that feature. So questions that aren't simple yes and no questions is a great go-to. You want your client to expand. You want it to be a back and forth, not a one-sided conversation. My final tip for you is to follow up with your client pretty soon after the call ends. You're going to want to send a meeting recording link if you recorded your training or your session. You're also going to want to send a recap of what you discussed. So if you went over a new feature, break down that feature, Remember to include what the client was mentioning on the phone so they feel like you were listening. So if they brought up specific points or questions, include a quick summary of those, just maybe one bullet point. And then finally, make sure you've got clear action items identified at the bottom of your follow-up so your client knows what they're expected to do before you meet next, and they know what you're going to do for them before you meet next. And that might be a great time to schedule a quick check-in call or a quick follow-up call as well. Those are my 7 top tips to making your remote training successful, and I hope you've found them useful.